Can you hear me?
Oh, we can't see him, but we can hear you. So we good to go?
You are good to go. I'm going to actually do a little introduction here since I'm here. Steve Moran here. I have had a great boat adventure. I'm sorry you can't see me. I am on the boat with a training captain, Captain John Garza, who you can't see. I was going to show him off. And so I have asked Jack to step in, who you all know, the founder of IN2L and a great friend, to step in. Darryl, I apologize for doing this, but I was going to be weeks out. You know these great adventures, and so with that, I'm actually going to bail out and let you carry on without me. I was hoping to show you some pictures here. So
hey, Steve, before you go, do you know the story of Wally Pip? You know who Wally Pip is?
Yes.
What's the relevance to Wally Pip right now?
Don't know who he is.
Hear me. Wally Pip was the first baseman for the New York Yankees that got hurt one day, and he got hurt, and Lou Gehrig stepped in for him, and he played like 1,500 straight games, baby. So this is you're on the open sea, man. You're out. You're gone. This could be the Jack York Senior Foresight TV from here on in, baby. Let's check the ratings. Let's compare ratings. All right, maybe you're long gone.
Maybe so. That could be it.
All right. Well, anyway, Steve, thanks for having me hop onto this. My name's Jack York.
Hold on here.
You what?
Hey, yeah.
Oh,
let's see if I can show you around the boat here. It looks like it's dead.
Live at its best.
I'm gonna go.
Okay, he's out of here.
All right.
Darryl, we have lost Moran. We can, this is what an incredible feeling for me to be able to say anything I want as acting as Steve Moran, and there's nothing he can do about it. He's like in a Stephen King novel somewhere in a boat headed off of California. Who knows how long. So anyway, I'm Jack York, one of the founders of IN2L, and Steve asked me yesterday to hop in for him, and I assumed I would be talking to somebody probably with some kind of technology product and blah blah blah. I was ecstatic when I learned a little bit about Darryl, about Dream Flights, about the work that they're doing. It really plays to my own passion of breaking down the stereotypes of aging and senior and older adults and all that stuff. So, Darryl, take it away. Give us a quick snapshot. There's some folks hopping in all over the place. Tell us who you are and what you do. It's a great story.
Awesome. Thanks, Jack. It's great to be with you today. We started back in 2011, March 29, 2011, and talking about stereotypes. We fly 80-year-old World War II biplanes, and so we're flying old airplanes, and the thought, you can't believe the conversations I had with people trying to convince them it was a good idea for a 90-year-old to get in an open cockpit biplane and go flying. But we did, and that first one, Hugh Newton, he was a World War II veteran in Oxford, Mississippi. I personally gave him his first flight, or his last flight actually, but it was our first dream flight. And we've gone on to give 4,200 plus flights to seniors and veterans that live in nursing facilities, assisted living, and retirement communities.
So what was the, everything has a start, everything has a story. Was it just a whimsical idea you had? Is it something you'd been thinking for a while, or what was the gestation for it?
Well, everything happens, I guess, for a reason. But back in 2011, I didn't have a lot to do, and some of I'm in the senior living business. My grandparents actually got started in senior living in 1965. So I grew up around the elderly, and both my grandparents were pilots. So I just giving you a little background of my personal background. So I developed a love of aviation and seniors very early in life. So I went on to become a leader in senior living and also a commercial pilot. So 2011, I had time on my hands. And, you know, before I started Mission Senior Living, we had a program called Ageless Dreams. And the idea was to take a senior living in one of our communities, identify what they either used to do years ago or what they always wanted to do, and make it happen again. So my dad called me up in February 2011 and said, Darryl, can you go to Mississippi with me? He lived in Oregon, and get my biplane that's been beautifully restored. Matter of fact, it's the one right over my shoulder, and fly back to Oregon with me. I said, absolutely. That sounds like a fantastic idea. You're paying the bills. I got plenty of time. This is a good program. So I got to thinking about that. I said, you know, why don't we have to make like 20 gas stops on the way back? Why don't we stop at our gas stops, call a senior living community, have them bring a veteran or two out, and we'll give them a flight. So I had a heck of a time convincing people that was a good idea. But I got.
You mean you had trouble convincing the senior living folks, or the actual the folks getting on the plane?
Folks getting on the plane, great. They absolutely have. They absolutely have no problem getting on the airplane. Right. But we have stereotypes. You talk about stereotypes. People are people that work in senior living communities don't think about their residents in their 90s flying in an open cockpit biplane. It challenges their thought process. So, anyways, I convinced the community there in Oxford. So I get Hugh Newton in the airplane. I give him a flight. I get back down. He's all smiles. His wife comes over to me and she puts her hand right on my shoulder and says, Darryl, you have no idea what you've just done for my husband. And Jack, I had no thought of continuing on, frankly. This was just going to be a father-son trip from Mississippi to Oregon in a biplane. But we gave 25 flights on the way back. And I got home. I'd send my wife every night. I'd tell her the stories. And our second dream flight, Lloyd Latham was a World War II veteran. His entire living family came out to see the flight.
Yeah.
So I'd text my wife pictures. I'd send her, newspaper articles and things. And when I got back, she said, we got to keep this going. It's pretty cool. And she made me promise that she'd do all the legal work, take care of the organizational stuff, but I had to promise her that if I didn't have any money, I couldn't do any flying. Can you believe that?
Yeah. No, it's funny because like things are so analogous. Like the story of IN2L is a really good friend of mine, Leslie Sweeney, had the idea to donate some computers to a local assisted living community, and we never thought of it as a business, and it winds up. I think God or I think all of us kind of get hit with inspirations, and I think most people just kind of talk themselves out of it because they think it's crazy, but it's the crazy ideas that turn into cool things. So how have you been able to scale it? I mean, what was it, 4,000? How many flights did you say you guys have done now?
I think the official count is 4,442, but we didn't try to scale it, Jack. That's the interesting thing.
Yeah.
We were back in 2011, if you'll recall, it was a pretty tough time economically.
Right.
And I got to give a little pitch because Direct Supply was our first donor, and they got the ball rolling. So they allowed us to go beyond. My dad paid for that first trip, the first 25.
Yeah.
He was our first donor. And then Direct Supply was the second donor, and they are the first, real actual donor. And so they allowed us to go do 25 more flights. And it's crazy, Jack, I just kept getting requests. People kept writing checks and donating, and it just grew literally organically. And next year we'll have 6 airplanes and we'll probably do 1,000 flights, dream flights, and it's just taken on a life of its
Yeah.
own.
Well, what's your favorite story? If you could think of one. And I love how you're able to rattle off the people's names. It's like someone who works in a senior living community. You can tell when they got the juice, when they're able to talk to they tell you who the staff members' names are, who the residents' names are, and you're talking about the guys you took out. I'd love to hear some of your notable.
Well, it's really funny because I've given myself about 1,500 flights, and so it was really easy early on to remember the names and the places.
Yeah.
It got a lot more difficult, but with COVID shut us down this year for the most part.
Yep.
But I happened to be moving one of the airplanes and was in Missouri, and a gentleman came out named David Shaw, and David was a World War II veteran. He just came out to see the airplane. He saw me land. He saw us land. He comes out with his daughter and some family members. And when I saw him, I said, "Look, man, you're going for a flight." And he just lit up like a Christmas tree. And he called me. I mean, this was back in September. He called me 2 weeks ago. He said, "Darryl, how you doing?" I mean, I took him on his flight. He went to his car. He had 4 books, Jack, of his. He had a camera when he was in World War II, and not many people did. And he proceeded for the next 2 hours to show me all the pictures he took and the experiences he had. And he was in Operation Ivory Soap, which was a pretty cool operation, but it just opened him up.
It's got to be. It's the moment these guys get up in the air, it's got to be flooding memories and all kinds of conversations, to be had. So what have you said you talked about direct supply. It sounds like you've had a couple other organizations, because you're not charging anybody, right? You're just trying to do the whole thing through sponsorship dollars. Who are some of the folks that have stepped up to the plate?
Well, you're right, Jack. You can't buy a flight. We get people all the time come up and say, "Hey, can we buy a flight in the airplane?" And we say no. The people that we honor have earned, they've already paid for their flight. They've earned it through what they've done for us. And so we're all volunteers, and we don't charge, but it's a very expensive operation. And so people have been so kind to write checks and fund our activities. Right Click was our second donor, and Right Click became Matrix Care when Stephen Vick sold it. And so Stephen Vick, he was our second donor. Scott Reese with Alliance Insurance out of Oregon was our third donor. Payless Pharmacies was our fourth. So we've had a lot of people step up to the plate. Sport Clips, not even in our senior living business, but they love veterans and they see what we're doing for veterans. They wrote me an email back in 2015 and said, "Hey, we love what you're doing. How can we help?"
Yeah, no, because it totally transcends senior living. And as Cheryl is beating me up from the sidelines, make sure that I don't keep saying guys, that I'm sure it's been men and women that you've had up in the air. And like, how do you select the people, or we
don't select them. What happens, Jack, is communities will contact us and say, "We'd like to have you come and give our residents dream flights." And so we'll in the scheduling process, we'll get a hold of them and say, "Hey, you've been selected. We're going to put you in our schedule. We have 8, select 8 of your seniors and veterans that would like to fly." And we let them do that because we don't know their residents. We ask them to prioritize veterans.
Yep.
And then we just show up, and they've selected, whoever's going to be flying, and it's amazing.
No, I could imagine, like, I'm envisioning like small town, like it would be like make the local nursing home resident a hero by getting and it does. It's there, as you were talking about this before, that there's just so much humility among that generation, not talking about what they did. I have the story that so many other people share, that my dad did all kinds of cool stuff in World War II and the Pacific Theater, never talked about it. And you find all this stuff out after he dies, that it's great to be able to do what you do and be honoring people, while they're still alive. So what has COVID done, and what do you talk about what you're thinking about next year, and then we can move, as we wrap things up a little bit, wrap towards kind of how people can get involved and other ways we can do things. But yeah, I mean, really, I'm sure COVID had to, obviously, like everybody else, throw everything for a loop.
It did. We were set to have our biggest year ever in 2020, and we started in February down in the Phoenix area. So we did 37 dream flights, and then I was actually en route to Orlando March 10 when this thing started to break. And so I was in San Antonio, called an emergency board meeting, and we had to shut the operation down based on COVID, which broke my heart. I'm going crazy because I haven't been able to give any dream flights, but it is what it is, and we're all struggling with it. But we have big plans for 2021, and they're plans that can happen in spite of COVID.
Right.
We've spent a lot of time this year developing our, sanitizing the airplanes and disinfecting things, wearing masks. We have procedures in place where we're going to be fine operating in the COVID environment. And we've got we announced on Monday, December 7, Pearl Harbor Day, we announced Operation September Freedom. We're excited, super excited about it, because it is going to be focused solely on World War II veterans. So starting August 1st through September 30th, we're going to take our 6 airplanes all across the country and only fly World War II veterans.
Wow. So for a finite length of time, was that what you were saying?
Yeah. Yeah. And because here's the deal, the youngest World War II veteran is going to be 95. And if we don't do this now, it's never going to get done.
Yeah.
I mean, think about it, Jack. Your dad was in World War II. There was 16 million Americans that fought in World War II. We think there's about 100,000 going to be alive next year. So
wow,
we're going to do it, and it's cool because we're going to get to take part in history. This may be the last national effort ever to honor World War II veterans.
So right now is obviously the perfect time to start planning for this, as far as reaching out. I again, having just met you now over the last 24 hours, certainly from an IN2L standpoint, we can get the word out to, we've got 3,500 plus communities with our technology. I'd love to talk with you offline about getting the word out to our folks. But in general, I see Wendy shooting a couple links up on the side, but just as far as how, if people are in a community and they may have a World War II vet, what's the best thing for them to do from a process standpoint?
Well, here's the deal. Right now, between now and June 1st, we need to identify World War II veterans and get them registered on our website. You can go to dreamflights.org/honor, and there's an application process that you can put in for your, for any senior living communities that have World War II veterans that want to fly. Go ahead and get them signed up right away. Now, I'm real excited to announce that American Healthcare Association and the National Center for Assisted Living has come on as one of our national sponsors. So we're real excited that they came on board. Mark Parkinson and Scott Tittle, great guys. They jumped right on the bandwagon. We also were just notified recently that Argentum is going to come on as a sponsor, major sponsor as well. James Balda and crew there have stepped up to the plate.
Yep.
And it's really, senior living communities are doing, they're doing so much for us. For veterans and seniors, they're doing all kinds of things. And right now they're getting hammered in the press.
Yep.
So my hope is that senior living leaders will get behind this, get applications in, and because it's going to get press. This is going to get all kinds of press nationally. And my hope is that it showcases the wonderful things that we as professionals in senior living do every day. And it's going to bring positive recognition to us. So I'm real excited.
Yeah, no, that's great. And it makes me think, what's a great marriage is, I'm just thinking about this from what we do for the vets that can't physically get in the plane, to be able to do kind of a virtual events, honor these people, have one of whoever you're getting on the plane be part of. There's a whole bunch of ways we can marry the technology with honoring the veterans and have a hell of a good time. You must be going crazy. I mean, to not be able, you're sitting there with all your cool planes and pictures behind you, and I'm sure you're just like chomping at the bit, ready to get up in the air with these folks, and you can't do it.
It's really tragic that we haven't been able to do it, but everybody's life has been disrupted now, and so what we're doing is taking the opportunity to plan for this and really set the preparations up so that we do a really good job honoring our World War II veteran heroes and showcasing senior living and what we do for these people.
Yeah, no, it's the same. I mean, it's the same thing we've seen too, is that there's a lot of positive stories out there, and I think if you present them to the media the right way, they'll run with them too. So as I know that, I think just from a time standpoint, getting close to wrap things up, I'd say it has been cool to have this conversation. You and I can talk offline about some of the things that we can do collaboratively, but it's certainly it's just a win-win deal all around. And you just before you totally wrap up, like the plane. So those are cool pictures you have on your wall. Are those examples of the plane? Can you hold one up close, or what the?
Yeah, I got to figure out how this works. The red plane you see there?
Yeah.
That's my dad's. That is my dad's airplane that he had restored, and that is the first. I gave the first dream flight ever in that airplane in Oxford.
That's the Mississippi. That's the first guy. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, unfortunately, we're based out of Carson City, Nevada, and unfortunately, we have no airplanes here because they're all out across the U.S. because that's where they work. We don't bring them back every year, and so I don't have one of the biplanes here because they're all out ready to go to work in the field. And so, but Dad's airplane is very special. My dad passed away in August.
Okay.
And but his greatest, you just can't imagine the joy that it brought to him. Seeing his airplane used to make a difference in our senior veterans' lives. It's been very powerful.
Yeah, no, I tell you, he's up there flying away, patting you on the back, Darryl. It's a good tribute to you, a legacy to your dad, and obviously this kind of thing, it just it just rolls. You go from World War II, you go to Korean War, you go to Vietnam. There's so many legs to this whole thing, and at the end of the day, a little whimsical thing becomes a huge thing. So why don't you go ahead and give a final, just to get kind of a final place for folks to go to be able to learn more about this, and then we'll wrap things up.
Well, again, if people, everything's on social media now. So if you go to Facebook, you'll see our announcement, and I would encourage you to go to Facebook and share that. It's
all in Dream Flights. It's all Dream Flights. Okay.
Yeah, dreamflights.org on Facebook, and then go to our website, dreamflights.org/honor, and you can sign up. It'll tell a lot more about the foundation and our history and a lot of details that you may need. And so we really need our senior living profession to step up, nominate people, get involved in this, because this could be a real positive thing coming out of COVID and give us something all to look forward to.
Yep.
In 2021, because I don't know about you or anybody else out there watching, I'd kind of like to forget about 2020.
Yeah, I know. Well, and I was telling you when we talked earlier this morning that with the IN2L systems, we have a flight simulator, and it's wild to see a veteran just grab the yoke, baby, on the flight simulator and just go crazy with it. So I can only imagine the smiles and the joy and the families and the reconnections and all that stuff. So this is our first conversation, but not our last, and hopefully some folks are watching that can jump in. So so again, the great work that you're doing. Thanks for the folks that are out there. And what I don't know if you want to make this public enough, but just kind of get a sense of like sponsorship levels and dollars. What kind of dollars make an impact for you?
Well, any dollar, Jack, make an impact. And my hope, because everybody's been impacted economically with COVID. So my hope is that professionals in senior living, if you give 25 or $50, if 1,000 or 2,000 or 3,000 people do that, it becomes a big deal to our effort to honor our heroes. And so I would say, don't worry about the amount of money, just give money, because that's what it takes. And we don't charge for it. We're volunteers. We're spending our time and energy and effort to say thank you. And so it's a really neat gift. And so I just ask people to give at any level they choose to. Okay.
And you got a 501c3 set up from a deductibility on? Yeah.
In June of 2011, we went live with our 501c3.
Okay. Well, hey, next year I'll put in $1,000 if Moran puts in $1,000. Let's see if that guy can. The guy's out there fishing somewhere off supposedly Northern California. He's probably in Cabo. So who knows what? But we'll kick in a couple grand to get something going. But hey, great stuff, great story. Thanks everybody for watching it. And this is Jack York, aka Steve Moran, aka Wally Pip. It's been a pleasure and an honor to be a part of this. And Darryl, great stuff, man. Your dad's smiling.
All right, thanks, Jack. I really appreciate it.
Okay, bye everybody.
Bye now.